My grandfather died thinking he took his biggest secret to the grave. He didn't. And now my family might never be the same. Hi, Reddit. I didn't think I'd ever post something like this. But honestly, I'm still shaking. This is going to sound like a Netflix drama, but it's my real life. And I don't know how to even process what I've just uncovered. I, 34F, recently found out something about my grandfather. And I don't mean, oh, he was in the war or he used to drink too much. No. I mean life-altering, truth-shattering, what the actual hell kind of stuff. He passed away last year at 92. We called him Pop. Everyone loved him. The man was a walking dad joke. Always wore the same green windbreaker no matter the season. He carried butterscotch candies in his pocket and used the same damn paper calendar every year. The kind of man you'd never question. The kind of man people described as salt of the earth. When he died, my parents, especially my dad, his son, were devastated. We had a small memorial. No drama. Just sadness and stories. Pop was gone and that was that. Or so I thought. About 2 months ago, I started helping my cousin Leah digitize some old family photos. She's into genealogy and wants to make a kind of visual family tree. Totally innocent. We're flipping through this ancient photo album. Cracked leather cover, brittle pages, the works. And Leah holds up this black and white picture. That's weird, she says. This looks like Pop, but younger. And who's that? She points to a woman standing next to him. They're smiling, close. Like, intimately close. And there's a little boy in front of them. Maybe 4 years old. The kicker? None of us recognize either the woman or the child. We flip the photo over. Faded handwriting. Me, S, and our boy, 1954, NYC. Our boy? Leah and I just stare at each other. Pop never lived in New York. At least, that's what we were told. He was born in Ohio, raised there, worked in a steel mill, married my grandma, had my dad, blah, blah, blah. So, who the hell are S and our boy? Was this before he met Grandma? Did he have a secret family? Cue the rabbit hole. That night, I went home and started digging. I asked my dad if Pop had ever lived anywhere besides Ohio. He said no. Pop was born and died in the same county. But something in his voice sounded off. Hesitant. I pushed a little. Did Pop ever talk about the 50s? Ever go to New York? He said, and I quote, "Don't start stirring things up, kiddo. What's done is done." Now I was off. I didn't sleep. I started scanning public records. Old census data, marriage licenses, whatever I could find. It took me 3 weeks. But Reddit? I found something. In 1952, a James R. Holloway, Pop's exact full name, was listed on a New York City marriage record to a woman named Sylvia Moreno. And in 1954, a birth certificate, a son, Michael Holloway. I didn't know whether to cry or throw up. Pop had a whole-ass family before he came back to Ohio, and he never said a word. I called Leah. She freaked. We told my dad and uncle, Pop's 2 sons from his known family. They both got weirdly quiet. My uncle said it was none of our business. My dad told me to stop digging up ghosts. But I can't. I won't. I found more. Letters. Tucked in the back of that same photo album. Hidden behind glued pages. Written by Sylvia. One said, "Jimmy, I don't understand. You said you'd be back after the job. Michael keeps asking for you. Please don't do this to him. To us." Another, dated a year later. "You made your choice. I won't chase you anymore. Just know your son will grow up knowing what kind of man his father was." So, yeah. My grandfather ghosted an entire family, abandoned a child, and apparently never told a soul. I feel like I've been sucker punched by history. My dad refuses to talk about it. My aunt said, "Some stories are better left buried." But I disagree. This changes everything. Who we are, where we come from. And honestly, I want to find Michael, if he's still alive. I want to look him in the eye and tell him I know. That he was real. that he mattered. But I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't even know if I have the right to open this box. What would you do? I tracked down my grandfather's secret son. He's alive, and I don't think he knows the truth. Hey, Reddit. Back again. I honestly didn't expect my first post to blow up the way it did. Thank you to everyone who messaged, commented, or even shared their own stories. I read everything. Some of you made me laugh, others made me cry, and more than a few confirmed what I already knew in my gut. I had to keep digging, so that's what I did. Leah and I became full-on detectives. Think corkboard, strings, sticky notes. We basically turned her guest room into a conspiracy wall. We split tasks. I looked into Michael Holloway. She kept cross-referencing Sylvia Moreno. We even made burner social accounts in case we needed to DM anyone without spooking them. And then, bingo. We found a Michael R. Holloway, currently living in upstate New York, about 70, semi-retired architect, married, 3 adult kids. His public LinkedIn was minimal, but there was a bio on his old firm's website that said he grew up in Brooklyn, raised by a single mother. Cue the chills. Leah emailed him from the burner, pretending to be a grad student doing a project on early urban planning. She just wanted a quick phone interview, supposedly. He replied. Polite. Warm, even. I sat in silence as she took the call on speaker. It was surreal. His voice sounded so much like Pop's, not just in tone, in rhythm. His laugh even had the same half-snort thing Pop used to do when he was amused, but didn't want to show it. She kept it short. Just enough to confirm a few facts. Yes, he was raised by his mom alone. No, he never knew his father. Said his mom told him he died before Michael could remember. But then he said something that floored us. I always suspected there was more to it. My mom was cagey about it. I asked once if he'd ever contacted us. She just said, "He's not someone we talk about." I had to leave the room. After the call, Leah and I just sat there in stunned silence. It was him. He was the boy in the photo, the one Pop left behind. And he didn't know. Not really. I wanted to reach out, immediately. Just message him and say, "Hey, I think I'm your niece. I think your dad was my grandfather." But I hesitated. My dad was still stonewalling me. My uncle had actually blocked my number after I sent him one of Sylvia's letters. They were doubling down on this weird protective denial, like they thought I was going to shame the family name or something. Even my mom, who's usually Switzerland, told me, "Maybe there's a reason your grandfather never told anyone." Okay, sure. But maybe there's a reason I'm here now, finding all this. I can't unknow it. I reached out to a therapist friend just to process all the emotions, and she asked a simple question that stuck with me. Is this about healing the past or proving the truth? Honestly, at this point it's both. Because this isn't just some abstract story. This is my story. Our story. And Michael deserves the truth, no matter how ugly or painful. So, I wrote him a letter. A real one. Pen and paper. No burner account. No pretending. Just me, telling him the whole story. What I found, how I found it, what I think it means. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I didn't demand anything either. I told him I understood if he wanted nothing to do with us, but I left my number. My real number. That was 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, I got a text. It just said, "Hi, I got your letter. I need some time, but I want to talk." I stared at that text for a full 10 minutes before I cried. So, yeah, that's where we are. I might be meeting my secret uncle soon. The man my grandfather abandoned. The man my entire family erased from our history. And the craziest part? I don't think this is the only secret Pop took to the grave. Something's still missing. I can feel it, and I think Michael might be the key. I met my secret uncle. He brought a box that changes everything. Hey again, Reddit. If you've been following this saga, buckle up. because this next part wrecked me in ways I'm still trying to process. So yeah, after Michael texted me saying he wanted to talk, we set a date to meet in person. He suggested a diner halfway between our towns. Said it felt safer that way, neutral territory. I didn't argue. I was already just grateful he didn't ghost me. I got there first. Wore my calmest outfit. Not fancy, not sloppy, just trustworthy niece vibes, if that's a thing. When he walked in, I knew it was him instantly. He looked like Pop. Not just the nose or the jawline. It was the way he moved, like he had 100 things going on in his head, but kept them neatly filed behind a quiet face. He smiled, awkwardly, sat down, ordered coffee. Then we just looked at each other for a long moment. "I didn't think I'd ever meet anyone from his side," he said. I apologized, even though I didn't cause any of it. I just needed him to know I got it. That this must have been so surreal, maybe even painful. But Michael wasn't angry. "I grieved a long time ago," he told me. "This is more like reopening a room I thought was locked forever." We talked for over 2 hours. About Pop, about Sylvia, about what it was like growing up with this looming mystery of a missing father. "She never said his name out loud after I turned 10, he said. "It was like he got erased. But I remember once, when I was little, I found her crying over a photo. I asked who it was, and she said, 'Your biggest what if?' That gutted me. But then, as we were wrapping up, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn box. 'This was hers,' he said. 'I kept it after she passed. I didn't open it for years. Figured it was just letters or old love notes. But after your letter, I went through it. Inside were about a dozen envelopes rubber-banded together. Every single one was addressed to James R. Holloway. All returned to sender. Sylvia tried. For years. Some were dated well into the 60s. She'd moved around, Queens, then Jersey. Every few years she tried again. "Michael just graduated," one said. "He still asks if you'll ever write." Another dated 1971. "I've accepted that you won't answer. But if you're still alive, I need you to know he's a good man. He became what you weren't brave enough to be." There was no rage in her words, just sadness, profound, aching sadness. And then, the bombshell. Folded into one envelope was a photo of a baby. On the back it said, "For James, your granddaughter, born 1973. Her name is Elise." I looked up at Michael, stunned. "I always thought Elise was my daughter," he said slowly. "But Sylvia told me, later in life, that she wasn't, that she was his." I couldn't speak. "You said in your letter that your dad was born in 1959, he added. "Which means Pop had your dad, with his new family, while still getting letters from Sylvia, still being told he had another child. He knew, Pop knew, and he still walked away. So now, not only do I have a secret uncle, I might have a secret aunt too." Michael hasn't been able to track her down. Said she changed her name in the 90s, moved out west, cut contact. But now that I know she exists, I have to find her. My entire life, I thought our family line was simple, clean, Midwest modesty, God, country, cookouts, and car loans. But Pop wasn't just a gruff old man who liked puzzles and westerns. He was a ghost, a man who fractured lives and told no one. I hugged Michael before we left. He held on just a little longer than I expected, like he didn't want to let go. Honestly, I didn't either. He's not just a story anymore. He's family. And now we have another mystery to solve, one I think Pop never wanted us to know. So if anyone knows an Elise, born in 1973 in New Jersey, last name possibly Moreno or Holloway, I'm listening. I found the woman who might be my aunt. She told me to never contact her again. Hi again, Reddit. I can't believe I'm even writing this, but here we are. If you haven't read the first 3 posts, quick recap. I found out my grandfather secretly had a family before the one he raised. A wife, Sylvia, a son, Michael, and, possibly, a daughter named Elise, who was born after he started his new life with my grandmother. Michael, my newly discovered uncle, and I found a photo Sylvia had sent to Pop in 1973. On the back, she wrote, "Your granddaughter, Elise," which would make Elise my aunt. Or half-aunt? The terminology gets fuzzy when your family tree is basically a crime scene. Anyway, I started looking. It took some serious digital detective work. Elise apparently changed her last name sometime in the 90s, which is when she seems to have disappeared from most public records. No Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. But then I found an old comment thread on a public blog, a genealogy site, ironically, where someone named Elise Moreno H. posted under an article about Puerto Rican migration in the 1970s. She mentioned being born in New Jersey in '73, raised by a single mother named Sylvia. The timing, the name, the mother's name, it all matched. I knew it was her. I held on to the email address listed on the comment for 2 days. I must have rewritten my message 100 times. I didn't want to scare her. I didn't want to come off like some obsessed internet weirdo, but I also didn't want to lie. So I told her the truth. Who I was, what I found, that I'd recently met Michael, that we believe her father might have been James Holloway, my grandfather. And I told her this wasn't about forcing a reunion or demanding anything. I just wanted her to know we were here, and that if she ever wanted to talk, she wasn't alone. The next morning I got a reply. It was 2 sentences. "I know who you are. Do not contact me again. I want nothing to do with any of you." That was it. No punctuation, no sign-off, just cold, flat rejection. I don't know what I expected. Hope, maybe. Curiosity. Even anger would have felt more open. But this? This was a door slammed so hard I felt the reverberation in my chest. I told Michael. He looked down for a long time, then said quietly, "She always felt abandoned by everyone. Maybe she thought the past was safer buried. And I get that. I really do. But it still hurts. This whole thing has cracked something open in me I can't seem to shut again. I walk around with this ache now, like I'm carrying not just my own grief, but someone else's too. Grief I inherited without asking. It's like my grandfather scattered these emotional landmines through time, and now we're the ones stepping on them. I tried to write Elise again. I didn't send it. I'm not going to. I'm respecting her boundary. But I needed to get it out. And in that unsent message, I found myself saying something I didn't expect. "I'm sorry we found you too late. But we'll always be here if you change your mind. Family doesn't vanish. It waits." I guess that's the hardest part of this. Knowing that even if I respect her silence, I'll still be waiting. Michael's taken it surprisingly well. He told me this isn't the end, just one chapter, and maybe Elise needs to process in her own time. Or maybe she never will. Either way, we're still here. And maybe that's the real legacy Pop left behind. Not just secrets, but the quiet, painful opportunity to try and make something better out of the wreckage. But even as I say that, something's still nagging at me. A single line in one of Sylvia's letters to Pop that I haven't been able to shake. "You left when you got what you needed. You always said you had no choice. But I know what I saw that day. I saw who was with you. Who was with him? Because up until now, we thought it was just Sylvia and the kids he abandoned. But what if there's more? The stranger in the photograph. Who the hell was she? And why did Pop lie about knowing her?" Hi, Reddit. I'm honestly starting to feel like my life is turning into one of those long-form investigative podcasts. You know the kind. Season 2, The Forgotten Legacy, or whatever. If you've been following this saga, thank you. If you're new, I recommend going back a few posts, because we are deep into the twists now. Here's the TLDR. My grandfather lived a double life. A secret family in New York, wife, son, maybe a daughter, and a second, official family in Ohio, including my dad. He took the truth to his grave, or so he thought. I found out, tracked down my long-lost uncle and maybe aunt, and we've been untangling the mess ever since. Until now, it's all been about people I expected to find. Family. But last night, I stumbled onto someone who shouldn't exist in this story. Someone my grandfather never, ever mentioned. And someone Sylvia clearly believed was involved in whatever led to Pop's permanent disappearance from her and Michael's lives. Let me explain. Michael dropped off one last box from his mom's things. He'd been slowly going through it, but said it felt heavier than the rest, emotionally speaking. Inside were mostly photos. Old ones, some curled and sun-damaged, others still sharp. And then, stuck to the bottom of a photo envelope, I found it. A picture of Pop, Sylvia, and another woman. She wasn't labeled, no date, but you could tell it was taken around the same time as the others, mid-1950s, somewhere in New York. The woman stood next to Pop, and not just casually. Her hand was on his chest, familiar, intimate. Sylvia was standing a few feet off, smiling but awkwardly, like she didn't want to be in the photo. I stared at that woman's face for a long time. She looked young, maybe late 20s. Hair pinned up, neat dress, stylish for the time. There was something unsettling about her expression. Not creepy, just knowing. I showed it to Michael. He went quiet. "I don't know her," he said. "But I remember that dress. My mom used to refer to someone as the other one." That was it. Just the other one. A woman who haunted the edge of Sylvia's life. Never named. Always referenced with bitterness. So now I had questions. Who was she? And why did she matter? I took the photo to my dad. Big mistake. His face drained, like he'd seen a ghost. "Where did you get this?" he asked. I told him, calmly, that Michael had passed down Sylvia's box, and I was just trying to piece together the truth. He said nothing for almost a full minute. Then he took the photo, walked to the kitchen sink, and tried to burn it with a lighter. Luckily, it didn't catch. I grabbed it out of his hands, completely shocked. "What the hell are you doing?" His exact words. "You don't understand. That woman ruined everything. She's the reason we had to move. The reason your grandfather never talked about the past." Move? What? I thought Pop had lived in Ohio his whole life. Apparently not. According to my dad, who finally cracked under the pressure, there was a brief, strange period in the late 60s when Pop uprooted the whole family to Pennsylvania for work. They stayed in a rented house for 9 months. Then, suddenly, back to Ohio. He was paranoid the whole time, my dad said. Jumpy, always watching the street. And get this, he would take long drives every Thursday night, always alone. Never said where he went. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, reportedly hated that time. Told my dad years later she thought Pop had unfinished business. So now I'm staring at this photo, this stranger, wondering, was she the unfinished business? Was Pop still in contact with someone from his past? Someone Sylvia knew about? Someone who maybe threatened to blow the whole thing up? Because if Sylvia saw Pop with another woman the day he left, like she said in that letter, it might not have been his new wife, my grandmother, like we assumed. It might have been her, whoever she is. So now I'm digging again. Facial recognition tools, cross-referencing known associates from old addresses, newspaper archives. Because this isn't just about uncovering a forgotten family anymore. This is about understanding the kind of man Pop really was. Not the grandpa who handed out candy and told knock-knock jokes. The man who changed names, erased people, kept her in the shadows. If I find out who she is, I have a feeling it'll rewrite everything we thought we knew. Her name was Lillian, And she wasn't just the other one. She was something much worse. Hey Reddit. This one's hard to write. Up until now, I've been dealing with grief, confusion, betrayal, but always through the lens of family. The messy kind, sure, but still rooted in love, or at least an attempt to understand. But this latest discovery? This goes somewhere else entirely. It's darker, heavier, and it's making me question whether I even want to keep going. If you've been following the story, I found a photo in Sylvia's box, a picture of my grandfather with a mystery woman. Not my grandmother, not Sylvia, someone else. A woman no one would name but who clearly mattered. Maybe too much. My dad called her the reason we had to move, and tried to destroy the photo when I confronted him with it. That's when I knew I was getting close to something he really didn't want me to know. So I did what I do. I investigated. Took the photo and uploaded it to a private genealogy group that specializes in photo identification. A few folks said it looked familiar, and after enough cross-referencing with old directories from the 1950s and 60s in both NYC and rural Pennsylvania, I finally got a hit. Her name was Lillian Marcus, born 1928, died 1986. And guess where she lived most of her adult life? Not far from the town where my grandfather took those mysterious Thursday night drives. I found an obituary. No kids listed, no spouse. But the most chilling part? She used to work as a nurse at a private psychiatric facility. I know what you're thinking. Okay, a weird connection, but so what? So here's the thing. Michael told me that when he was a kid, he once overheard Sylvia on the phone crying and saying, "You don't understand. She knows what he did. If she talks, he's finished." He didn't know who she meant. Thought it was some paranoid moment, brushed it off. But now I think it was Lillian. Because here's what I found next. Buried in a court record index from 1971. There was a sealed civil case, no criminal charges, just initials, LMVJH. That's Lillian Marcus versus James Holloway, my grandfather. The case details weren't public, but the listing included a mediator note. Emotional distress, medical access, retention of property. My stomach dropped. I don't know what exactly happened between them, but the implication is clear. Something serious went down. Something Lillian tried to bring forward. And Pop, somehow, buried. I don't know how far it went. I don't know what medical access means in that context. Did he commit someone? Did he use her profession somehow? Or was it the other way around? Michael said he always got the sense Pop had power over people. Not just because he was charismatic, but because he knew how to keep people quiet. And suddenly, all those years of Pop being so guarded, so obsessed with control, it's taking on a whole new light. He wasn't just a man running from a family. He might have been a man running from accountability. I brought all this to my dad again. He didn't deny it this time. He just said, "That woman tried to ruin him, tried to ruin us." I asked him how. He said, "Because she knew what happened in 1956, and she never let it go." No elaboration, just that. Michael and I are planning to file a formal request to unseal the case since both parties are deceased. It might take time, or we might be denied completely. But I'm not stopping, because now this isn't about family anymore. This is about truth, about all the things my grandfather buried, not just memories, not just relationships, but maybe something truly unforgivable. And I can't shake the feeling that we've only scraped the surface. Something happened in 1956, and whatever it was, Lillian knew. She was the ghost my family refused to name. And now I know her name. The year everything changed. Hey, Reddit. I feel like I've been peeling an onion for months, layer after layer of secrets, lies, half-truths, until I finally hit the rotten core. And that core was 1956. That was the year Sylvia wrote in her letter. "You left when you got what you needed. It was the year Lillian supposedly never let go. And now I know why. But I need to warn you, what I'm about to share is heavy. It's not just drama anymore. It's not just family secrets. It's trauma. It's pain. And it changed the course of multiple lives in a way I'm still trying to process. Here's what I found. After filing a request to unseal the civil court case between Lillian Marcus and my grandfather, Michael and I waited almost 3 weeks. We honestly didn't expect it to work. But it did. Sort of. We got a partial file, a heavily redacted set of documents, most names blacked out, several pages missing entirely. But enough was left to understand the gist. Lillian filed the case in 1971, but the event in question happened in 1956. According to her sworn statement, what's left of it, she had been romantically involved with James Holloway, my grandfather, for over a year. At the time, she was working as a nurse in a now-defunct psychiatric hospital. My grandfather? Listed as a private maintenance contractor. Which, as far as we know, he never mentioned working in any hospital setting, ever. Then came the part that chilled me. There was a paragraph, barely legible, badly scanned, where Lillian claimed she had knowledge of inappropriate confinement of a woman, believed to be a relative of J.H., and that she repeatedly expressed intent to notify external authorities. Shortly after she voiced these concerns, she was dismissed from her position. Fired. Silenced. But here's where it gets twisted. Attached, almost as an afterthought, was a photocopy of a note, unsigned but marked with the date, June 2, 1956. She's gone. I didn't think it would go this far. You said this would fix things. You said no one would get hurt. That note? It was included in Lillian's evidence. She claimed it was written by my grandfather. We can't prove it. There's no handwriting confirmation. But based on the date and the cryptic message, I'm terrified of what it implies. Someone disappeared, and Pop was involved. Michael and I dug deeper. We finally found a record, not under Pop's name, but under Sylvia's, of a woman being committed to a long-term psychiatric facility in 1956. Her name was Isabel Moreno, Sylvia's sister. She was 26 years old. No history of violence, no history of mental illness. Admitted on June 1st, 1956. One day before the note was written. And here's the worst part. There's no discharge record. We found a death certificate from 1998. Cause of death: pneumonia, listed under the same hospital's long-term care wing. She spent 42 years institutionalized, and no one in the family ever mentioned her. No stories, no photos, nothing. I called Michael. He couldn't even speak. Apparently, Sylvia told him once, in passing, that she had no family left. She never mentioned Isabel, never visited her, never claimed her, because she couldn't. Because someone, maybe Pop, made her disappear. Maybe she was a threat. Maybe she knew something. Maybe she was just inconvenient. Whatever the reason, 1956 was the year Pop chose control over compassion, and it shattered everything. I keep thinking about that line from Lillian's letter. You said no one would get hurt. But someone did. Isabel did. Lillian did. Sylvia did. Michael did. Elise did, and maybe, in some twisted way, even Pop did. The weight of all those secrets, the lives rearranged, erased. It's unbearable now. My family is reeling. My dad has stopped speaking to me entirely. Says I'm trying to destroy everything he built. But I don't want to destroy anything. I just want the truth to matter. I want the people who were erased to be remembered. I want Isabel's name to be said. So here it is. Isabel Moreno, 1930-1998. You were real. You deserved better. We see you now. The final visit. I stood by her grave and I said her name out loud. Hey Reddit, this will probably be my last update. Not because the story doesn't continue. In some ways, it always will. But because this chapter has finally closed. Last week, I drove 6 hours to a place I never knew existed until a few months ago. A forgotten cemetery tucked behind a shuttered hospital in rural Pennsylvania. It's not the kind of place you stumble on. You have to know where to look. And most people don't. It's where they buried the long-term patients, the ones with no families, no visitors, no claims. I had to call 3 different county offices to get permission to visit the grounds. The hospital itself is fenced off now. It closed in the early 2000s, but the cemetery's still there. Just neglected. Wild grass, unmarked plots, a few crumbling stones with just numbers instead of names. But they told me where to find her. Isabel Moreno. Plot 382. They didn't even give her a headstone, just a small metal tag, half buried in dirt, with a number that almost no one alive remembers the meaning of. But I do now. I stood there, alone, the wind howling through rusted fencing, and I said her name. Out loud. Over and over. Isabel Moreno. Isabel Moreno. Isabel Moreno. Because she was erased, forgotten, left to rot in silence while the man responsible, my grandfather, played doting father, loving husband, grumpy grandpa with a pocket full of candy. And no one ever knew. Or worse, they knew and pretended not to. I brought flowers. Not because I thought she'd want them, but because I needed to. I sat on the grass for hours, told her everything, about Michael, about Elise, about Lillian, about all of it. I don't know if that was for her or for me. Maybe both. And then I said goodbye. Not because it's over, but because finally someone told her story. Someone acknowledged her life, her suffering, her humanity. And she deserved that. Everyone does. Since then, things have been strange. Michael and I still talk almost daily. We're closer than I ever imagined we'd be. I think he sees me as a bridge, the link between the life he could have had and the life he actually lived. Elise hasn't responded to any follow-ups, and I won't reach out again. I promised her once, and I'll honor that. My dad still won't speak to me. Maybe he never will. He says I spit on Pop's grave. But the truth is, Pop dug that grave, not just for himself, but for everyone he hurt. I just stood at the edge and said, enough. This whole thing started with a photo, a tiny black and white snapshot of a smiling man I thought I knew. And now it's ended with a name, carved not into stone, but into memory. Isabel Moreno. She was real. She lived. She mattered. And now she's remembered. Thank you, Reddit, for coming on this journey with me, for listening, for helping me make sense of it all. If you've ever wondered about your family, dig. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Pull at the threads. Because you never know what stories are buried. And sometimes, they deserve to be unearthed. OP. If you like these stories and videos, make sure to like, comment, and share so we can make some money from ad revenue and continue getting better and better with our publications. We strive to donate a portion of everything we make to charities that make a difference. Let us know if there is someone or thing you want to support. Thank you for staying until the end and enjoying the story.